Good evening, everybody. December 14th, 2021. Bitcoin action today didn't really do anything super productive. We had some pumping going on here, but it was limited and not really in a productive manner. So I had said yesterday, it is possible this is A, B, and C here. It went right to that 1.0 extension. And if we saw a move up off the lows that started, trucking up here, breaking this high, and then even more importantly, breaking that high there, that we may in fact be making just a larger diagonal using that as an ABC. Here's our ABC up in 1, ABC down in 2. That is possible. Now, the thing that made me hesitate in thinking that wasn't going to be the case, like I explained yesterday, is that relied really on this being a WXY. That's what I was thinking. And if it's not a WXY, which it is not since it got broken here, then instead this looks like a 5-wave move down, followed by a correction, and now we should potentially be seeing a 5-wave move down again from there, and eventually it'll lead to a breakdown of this point and then potentially into the 30K area. So that's what I'm wary of. If we saw some clean action off of the lows, like if this was more productive in here, showing an actual impulse or something along those lines, it'd be that'd be one thing. But this right now very much looks, again, like ABC action that looks corrective, and so seeing a breakdown from here is kind of what I'm anticipating. On top of that, we've got the RSI. Hourly RSI has gotten quite a bit of relief here. It's starting to get up pretty high. PPO is starting to get pretty high on the hourly as well. So back here when we were really oversold, I was saying, it's at some point it is going to bounce. It's going to give us a relief bounce of some sort. Well, now that's happened, and now that it's happened, it means we can see further downside, and this can start, getting back into that oversold territory again. So the impulse down that I had drawn out last night obviously did not play out, but I did say that even if it breaks that level that I had, I think it was 47.5 or something, even if it breaks that and starts going up, the bears still potentially have control because they can be doing just kind of a weird diagonal downwards instead. This may even be the start of another ABC down, ABC up, ABC down. That might be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 somewhere down here in a diagonal. We could certainly see something like that. So I did warn all the way back here, I think, that if we started seeing this chop action, if we didn't get a clean impulse up off the lows, that it was going to start getting really, really convoluted, hard to read, and basically just impossible to try to play in the short term, and that's certainly playing out right now. So am I 100% convinced it's going down from here? No. I think based on the action that we've seen so far, I think that's the most likely outcome, especially with the indicators now resetting up here. But I'm open to the possibility that if it continues pushing upwards, it may be this larger diagonal. I'm just not willing to say that's our most likely scenario right now, because the micro action is not telling me that it is. That looks unlikely at this point in time, but I do have it on here as a possibility. All right, let me see. I'm going to try to zoom out here and see if there's anything else that I'm missing. It is, the best case scenario still was that this was ABC down to this level here, and then we were going to see a move off. But as I've said many, many times before, we really, off that low, if we're going into the next leg up, we really should see an impulse, and we have not. This is not impulsive, not even a little bit, and so that makes me worry as well that we're going further down, that this correction hasn't ended yet. And it starts to look more like, definitely starting to look more like the scenario where, if we look on the daily here, I had said this could be A, this could be B, and we're starting to head down here into C for another dip down, potentially lower than where we were before we actually start going upwards in the final leg of the bull market. It is really starting to look like that to me. You know, I'm trying to just read the price action and give it some leeway and not get super bearish, but like I said, I am definitely in protection mode. If this was going to be a C wave down, we would expect it to occur in 5 waves. And so, that being said, let's just take a look. This would be 1, that would be 2. And in fact, I think we did have 5 waves down here in this first wave, so that makes sense. So here would be 1 and 2, like so. Then the question is, what's going on with third wave? This did spike down to the 1382, which is a very valid region for the third wave to end. It came up a little higher than it should have. It really shouldn't have breached the 618. So that is a little bit odd as far as these things go. But the next move down, based on this, would project us down to this area here, somewhere between 38.2 and 36,000 as a potential 5-wave move down. And that might be the end of it. Maybe we don't get all the way down here. We don't go super deep into that area. So I'll be aware of that. Let me put a green box there, because that is a potential area where we will hold right there in order to give 5 waves down, and that could potentially be called a completed you know, C wave at that point in time once we hit that. But just be aware that it wouldn't surprise me. Usually what happens when you get A, B, and C, where the B wave is actually higher than where this started, right? Usually what happens is C goes down further. So I am wary of that. You know, if we crack through that 36 to 38 area, that's going to be playing out instead, and we'll probably have an extended 5th wave. It might even happen as a giant capitulation wick again. I mean, we've seen this over and over again in Bitcoin. This was a big capitulation wick here. We could see kind of a breakdown of this 36K area and just panic selling happen before then shooting back up. That is certainly possible. So again, I'm not saying that is 100% guaranteed, but based on this, it kind of looks like that may be what we're in store for, unless we start moving up off the low. If it can give us 5 and a diagonal off the low, then that story kind of changes. But for now, I am pretty wary of moving down further, at least to this area, and potentially even dropping down further there. The way that I like to think about it for these corrections is I basically find the midline of all of this action, which I would say is right about here, right? We've got, you know, this is the top half, this is the bottom half, right? And then here's top half, bottom half, right? And so we've extended now above this midline area here of all of that action. And the high that we made was about $24,000 north of that line. And if we draw that down, $24,000 south of that line, it actually leads to about 20K. So that, again, not saying that is for sure going to happen, but it is a worry. It's a worry that we have to be aware of, where, you know, this reaction north of that midline area there sometimes gets reversed all the way down to an equal extent below the midline. So we could be heading, like I said, again, back into the 20s if that does play out. So things to look for on the daily chart, we should definitely be watching this trend line here. If that trend line breaks, then it would be surprising to see a move down. If we can actually get through that trend line there, just like what happened here, once that trend line broke, which happened right about there, we saw a large reaction up from there. So that is something that I'm going to be watching closely. And pretty much until that happens, I'm going to stay in protective mode. Once that happens, I'll start jumping back into some stuff on pullbacks. But up until that point, I am definitely still in protection mode. And I think that's pretty much the biggest indicator to me. If that RSI line breaks, if this line breaks here, and if we start moving up above this 51.9 is still kind of the line in the sand price-wise, and then keeping an eye on that daily RSI as well to indicate that maybe we're going up higher instead of down lower. But to be perfectly honest, I almost prefer the lower scenario at this point. Actually, I do. I don't almost prefer it. I definitely prefer it. I prefer going lower, and the reason is this action is shit. This is complete crap off of the low here, and it's no way to start off the next leg. So I would actually prefer a move down so that we can then finally see a strong 5-wave move at some point, hopefully, fingers crossed. If that does happen, we should see a strong move up, which should start us off on the right foot then for the next leg up in the bull market. So yeah, all right, so those are all of my thoughts right now. Obviously, nothing is set in stone. This action is going to continue to be real choppy and unreadable in the short term, but I am expecting just gut feeling basically at this point in time. Gut feeling, and also, like I said, 5-wave moves down indicate that it wants to see further downside as well. So between that gut feeling and the micro action just being ugly, I'm thinking we go lower still. But I do have those indicators I'm looking at to tell us if the danger is over, particularly that daily RSI downtrend. All right, everybody. Good night, and we'll see where we are tomorrow.